So I finally got my hands on a review unit of the G4, and at this point I think there are only two questions left to answer. Is this device so long after its release still relevant on the market? And is my review on YouTube still relevant? I can maybe help you answer the first question, but after review you definitely have to answer me the second one. So let's just get it started. Okay, just a warning, this review will be a little bit more casual than usual because I expect only the core viewers of my channel to actually watch it. So keep that in mind if I make any mistakes, because I won't do any second take anymore because I did a really great one and lost my audio. So size comparison with the Z3, as you can see, pretty much the same height. It's a little bit wider, but that's to be expected since the screen is bigger. Comparing it with the Moto X, you will see that it is a lot shorter, but has pretty much the same width, which is quite surprising because the Moto X Pure has a 5.7 inch display. Thickness is absolutely fine due to this amazing curve that makes it feel so organic and comfortable in the hand. Same goes for this curve here as well. So in the hand it feels so smooth and round like a bar of soap, and I really like this, and that's not meant negative because I mean this in a positive way. It just feels so nice and round. Of course, the back here, as you can see here, will scratch up quite a lot over time. You can simply replace that, that's not the issue, but places like this will just look scuffed up quite a lot. If you take off the back, you will find the 3000 mAh battery, the SD card slot and the SIM card tray, which is good because you can replace all of that if that matters for you. We have the power button here, which I still think is the wrong position because it doesn't feel natural to me to hit this place. The great thing is we have double tap to wake and double tap to sleep, so that works all fine. The volume rocker on the back though is something that I prefer. I actually like it, so all fine here. Dual tone flash, autofocus laser, camera. On the top we can see the IR blaster and the microphone. Left and right side are clean. On the bottom we have the micro USB and the headphone jack. On the front we have a notification light, which is really nice to see since we don't have anything like active display, which I'm not the biggest fan of anyways. So I gotta say, in terms of design they did a fantastic job because it feels great, and for a 5.5 incher one hand usability is still nice, and it just feels really nice in the hand. It's just the premium feel that I'm missing a little bit because of maybe the plastic, not quite so sure, but it just doesn't feel premium like it would withstand over time so much. So let's get and see what we got in terms of display quality. Because if I wouldn't have had at the same time the Moto X Pure, I would hype this screen a lot more. Because maximum brightness isn't the very best. It's quite good, don't get me wrong. But if I compare it side by side here with the Moto X Pure, it feels a little bit dull, and you won't see this so much on the video, but it is. And I will make a comparison between those two because I think they are quite comparable in many aspects. So maximum brightness is very good, but not the best one. The white point is absolutely spot on. I really love the white point, really nicely done. Blacks, pretty much as good as it can get for an AMOLED display. I really like this pitch black, almost pitch black, and just a little bit of IPS glow, which is fine. Viewing angles, also very stable and better than they seem here on camera. Don't worry, they are great. The colors are slightly saturated, but still maintained to be very natural and very accurate. I'm just missing a little bit of the vivid punch that the Pure has. If that one would have this, it would have been even better. Don't get me wrong, it's a really excellent display, but side by side the Moto X Pure seems a bit more impressive. This one in terms of quality is a little bit better, but most people don't care so much for quality but for an impressive design. Now let's see what we've got in terms of speaker. So, first thing to mention would be the position. It's not bad in terms of blocking because using it in landscape or in portrait, it wasn't that bad. You muffle the sound a little bit, but the overall quality still seems to be quite the same. The maximum volume though isn't as good as I expected it to be, because I saw a lot of reviewers saying it's very loud, but it's not nearly as loud as something like the Galaxy S6 or something like that. I was expecting something like that, but it's not. Maybe because, as you can see, my review unit is already damaged a little bit. The speaker has a little bit of an issue, but I gotta say I expected a little bit more volume. Therefore the sound is quite rich and full, the bass is a little bit there for a phone, the mids are very strong, but the highs aren't really clear. They sound very muffled and just a little bit cut off, which makes the overall sound feel like a little bit like like in a dumpster. And I don't want to mash it. It's an okay sound, but with a little bit more clarity I would have enjoyed it even more. Now let's check the performance here. In the browser it's still loading for some reason, but as you can see here, very smooth. The browsing experience overall is really nice. For some reason it does to have a delay right now, but I'm absolutely happy with the browsing performance. Now, for example, if we go into Phoenix, as you can see, it is really smooth, but not flagship level smooth for some reason. It can compete with something like the M9, Note 5 or Mate S. Those just were a lot smoother. After all, as you can see here, there is always a little bit of stutter and it just feels like it would miss a few frames in compared to other devices in comparison. So overall, totally fine. Not really anything to complain about the performance. Don't get me wrong, the overall performance is really, really nice, but not great. That's the one thing that has to be said. Like I already posted on Google+. The Kirin 950 is better, or 935. The Snapdragon 810 is better, and the Exynos as well is just better. This one, solid, high level performer, but not flagship level. It could be just a little bit smoother and snappier, for example, because it's just not super snappy. This is something that I've noticed, for example, as you can see here. Gaming performance also doesn't really impress me. There's a lot of micro stutters going on. It's just never really smooth. It doesn't have the highest frame rates. So here as well, the mentioned before devices are better. And the one thing that I wanted to show off because of the screen as well, for example, usually I have all my side gestures here. And this screen towards the side isn't responsive because, as you can see, I have a hard time. It did work right now for the 5th time. So responsiveness towards the screen wasn't the best one. And I see a slight little delay if I hit the multitasking button. The multitasking is strong because it doesn't seem to throw out any apps at any time. It really performed well here, but I would like for a little bit less delay here. Now for the battery life, it charges in 1 hour and 20 minutes, which is really good. Quick Charge does a great job, but it's the battery life where I'm a little bit more disappointed because, as you can see, 22 hours, not even 4 hours. Okay, this is 1.5 days, almost 2 days for me, slightly over 3 hours. Once again, this was quite good actually, the closest and best result that I got, close to 4 hours over the course of almost 2 days, but Wi-Fi only. Here we have not even 3.5 over the course of 1 day, almost 4 over the course of 1 day, slightly over 3 with just 9 hours with a little bit of heavier use. And this is the odd thing, because whenever I did a run, when I drained 33%, I had 1 hour and 30 of screen on time. If I do the math now, that would end up somewhere close to 4.5 hours. After 50% used, I had like 2 hours and 10, 2 hours and 20, also resulting in 4.5 hours. But every time I got at 5% and ended my review cycle of the battery, I ended at 3.5 to 4 hours. Not quite sure why, because standby drain was absolutely great with less than 0.5%, but why at the end the battery life is just decent and not great, but also not disappointing, is something that I don't quite get. Now, performance, the next thing, we have double tap to wake, we have double tap to sleep, which is something nice. We also have lock screen targets, which you don't see right now because I did already pull out the SIM and have it in the Moto X Pure. I really like the customizable quick settings because you can adjust them the way you want them to. This is something you don't get on most devices. You get like, you can maybe sometimes drag them around, but you can't delete them. You cannot, that is all fine. And I really still like the UI. A lot of people complain about the LG UI. I don't quite get why, because I think it is great. It maybe doesn't look the best. Stock Android is something that I prefer definitely in terms of looks, but in terms of functionality, this really has all the features that I actually use. And there is nothing that I think to be gimmicky. That is great. We are running 5.1. In some regions we all got Marshmallow. I didn't get that lucky yet. So I didn't review it with Marshmallow, but I don't think there's too much of a difference. Standby rate could be a little bit better, but I'm fine with that. So still like the software. If you want to know a little bit more impressions of that, I have a dedicated video for that you can just check. Now, the last thing, that would be the camera, which I won't really talk about because the only thing that I'm gonna say is the camera is easily top 3, great for pictures and also great for videos. If you want a little bit of a more detailed video, just check Some Gadget Guy's review and all his videos because he does the best camera reviews anyways. So that's it for my detailed part. Maybe some of you know this feeling. There are certain days when everything feels just right and then everything goes down the toilet. And this is exactly how this review went up. I did already one whole take with all the footage, all what I wanted to say, really liked it, super happy, exported everything just to see that I deleted by accident all my audio. Okay, after a few minutes of trying to recover that, I gave up, did another take, really liked that one, and I'm talking about the recap part. Just to notice that after half of the times, for some reason my audio slowed down, also trash. Then I made another take, said I won't do any other takes more. Yeah. I won't do any other takes anymore. Just to notice that my microphone wasn't here, but somewhere here. So once again, no audio. And after explaining this for 1 minute now, this is the final take. If it won't work out, there maybe won't be a review because I'm losing my shit. So, recap. Design and build quality. I love the design. It feels quite compact, really super round and smooth. This is what I absolutely like about this device. It feels so organic and nice in the hand. And I think I would prefer it over the leather because the leather just doesn't have this smoothness. I really love this material because it's grippy at all times and it feels so great. But the build quality is maybe not that great because over time, as you maybe saw in the detailed part, it looks scuffed up, which you can replace, by the way, but still at some points there are a few certain parts that you won't be able to replace and then it looks a little bit nasty after a while. But that's always a trade-off you have with a bag that can be recoverable. Damn, yes, you get it. Display. If I wouldn't have had the Moto X Pure at the same time, I would have said this display is fantastic, it's amazing, it does everything great, which it does. But in a side-by-side comparison, it just falls a little bit short in terms of impressiveness, which maybe isn't even a word, I highly doubt it. But I will make a comparison between those two because there are certain aspects where they just differ still. One is better than the other in some aspects and so. But the display isn't the brightest one. Seems, just in comparison, a little bit dull, but therefore very accurate and natural. If you prefer that, then you get a really great display. So the display on its own is really great. Just in comparison, since I have that right now with the Moto X Pure, it just seems a little bit less impressive. Now, the audio is definitely not impressive because the maximum volume is good enough in most cases, but not quite as loud as I would sometimes want it to be in louder environments. Also, the highs. They aren't really super clear. They seem a slight little bit muffled. But therefore, the mids and bass is quite solid because it's a really rich sound. Maybe because that's also of the lack of clarity. Now, the performance. The S808 is not the holy grail that I thought it would be. Because I heard a lot of people saying it has the performance of the 810 with better efficiency. And I'm not seeing that. I see less performance because it's not quite as smooth. Don't get me wrong, it's really smooth, it's really fast. Not maybe quite zippy or so, but overall, for pretty much every average user or slightly towards power user, more than fine. Don't get me wrong. But it can compete with a Kirin 945, it can compete with the Snapdragon 810, and it can compete with the Exynos. And it's not really that much more efficient than the 810, because battery life for me wasn't that great. I got 3.5 to close to 4 hours, not even reaching 4 hours once in a whole week. Therefore, you can charge it quickly and you can replace the battery. I get that, that's great for all the power users, but I prefer longer battery life, which is decent here. Not disappointing, but definitely not great, as I saw many other people. I'm not quite sure why I don't get the great battery life here. Maybe it's the way I use my devices, and therefore the 808 isn't efficient in my tasks. Just to keep in mind. The software though, I absolutely love it. I seem to be one of the few ones that does But I absolutely love it, and I would prefer it in terms of functionality over stock Android, not in terms of design. Of course, design is everyone's personal taste, and I think pretty much everyone prefers stock Android look. But the functionality I get here is the right one. I get all the things I want and need, I get here, nothing more, nothing less. And I really use all those options here. Nothing is gimmicky, all that is there is really good. And I can live with the design, and there is a theme engine right now even that makes it slightly more acceptable. I'm totally fine with the software. Now, the camera, won't go into detail about that, but all I can say is it's easily top 3. If you want to shoot nice pics, you will get that with manual controls and all that. Videos also look absolutely impressive, absolutely great. No complaints here. That's it. Now, to answer my question that I did I say asked? To answer my question that I asked earlier, is it still a relevant device? With a street price of about 400 euros right now, I'm not quite so sure about the US prices, it's still relevant because it is an overall great device that attracts a lot of power users because of the SD card, because of the removable battery, removable cover, and all that. So it does nothing wrong. The camera is a strong point, the display is great, feels great, even though I think that's not so compelling for many others because it's not so premium. Performance is absolutely there, battery life is a little bit disappointing, and the sound. But most of the things that I complained about are things that most people don't care. Not that people don't care about the battery life, but it should be good enough for most average people and good enough for a power user that has a replaceable battery. And then the sound is something that is still totally fine, just not impressive. So yes, it is relevant, but at a similar price point as the Pure X, it has quite some hard competition. And at my first day of having the Pure X, I said Pure X over G4, no discussion. By now I changed my mind. I'm not saying that now the G4 is the better one, but it's a lot closer, and it really comes down to a personal preference, what you want. I hope the comparison will help to answer that, and I hope this review is still relevant. And that is the question I have for you. Is this review still relevant? And the last thing, is the casual style something that you actually prefer? Okay, I gotta say one thing. This end part is even more casual than all the other ones before. Because at some point I just can't anymore. I want to finish this review because I was in the middle of editing just to notice that the end part is missing. But if you maybe prefer that more natural casual style, I definitely like it because it's more relaxing and comfortable for me, unless I'm not in the loony bin. Okay, the last thing that I have to say is, if you liked the review, despite all the flaws and hiccups, give it a like. If you didn't, give it a dislike. If you felt like I was unprofessional, which I never intended to be, I mean professional, subscribe to the channel for more. I wish you a nice day. Bye.